Hello everyone, thanks for connecting with me. Today in this video, I'll be covering the PPAP process. In PPAP process also, I'll be covering one of the important aspects of PPAP audit. As a customer, as an organization, how effectively you can perform the PPAP audit. What are the different critical aspects or parameters for each element of PPAP that we will understand today. So before going to that, we'll understand what is PPAP. PPAP is a customer-driven process, which is driven by the customers. It can be external customer or internal customer. When someone is saying like as an organization they follow PPAP process, it means they have a system to ensure the PPAP requirements are met and the parts which they are producing that will meet to the customer specification requirements. So this is how the meaning of PPAP, right, is mentioned. So talking about the scope of PPAP, which is applicable for the internal and external organizations, external as a customer, internal also, there will be an internal customers like different divisions, multi-sites. One site is supplying the components to the another site. The another internal site can be the customer. So this is applicable for the external as well as internal customers. So talking about the notifications, whenever you go for the changes in the existing components or you go for the new components, you have to submit the PPAP. So it can be a new PPAP or it can be a re-PPAP based on the type of the change or initiating a new product. So we follow the fourth edition as per the AIAG, which is followed by all the automotive organizations. So now let us talk about the PPAP audit, how each element can be verified or audited effectively. So that we will understand now. Okay, so talking about the PPAP audit process or PPAP verification process, this is very crucial for every customer, every organization. When we talk about PPAP audits, most of the organizations, unfortunately, they consider this PPAP process as a documentation process. So that is the reason for them, it is like a checklist. So they fill the each element and they send the details to the customer and customer give the approval, and based on that they go for the regular production. And post production there will be a lot of issues because ultimately there will not be any good controls and the PPAP is not effective. So that is the reason a lot of issues happens post production. So that is the reason as a customer we should have that understanding that for each element in a practical way what should be reviewed, what should be verified, so that the products which they will be dispatching in the future that will meet to your requirements. So that is very, very important. So let us understand each aspect. Okay, if we talk about the 80 elements of PPAP, let us start with the design records. When you go with the design record phase, so I'm just covering few of the critical points what you should verify in that particular design requirement, right? So first one, availability of the latest drawing, whether it is approved from the customer. This is very important. Sometimes if they're not following the latest one, if they're following the old revision documents and manufacturing the component, so that will again lead to the increase in COPQ and impact on your production, right? So evidences of the approvals, like the latest drawing, you can ask them to show the customer approvals. Where is the customer approved drawing? Where is the evidences of that? Where is the email communication or any other evidences? You can verify that. And linkage, you can also check the linkages with respect to the customer and end user related issues with respect to the drawing. Sometimes some issues in the similar component, some issues were occurred or issues may happen in the future. Those kind of requirements are not captured in the drawing. So understand how these are linked in the drawing, right? So sometimes from the design perspective also, some of the requirements can be missed out in this design level. So you need to understand these points and you need to ensure that these are the different verification, these are the different points needs to be verified as a part of the design record. So now talking about the engineering change documents. When we talk about the engineering change document, there will be multiple changes happening in that particular drawing, in that particular component. Check the revision history and verify all the evidences related to the trial results, related to the validation results, verification results, statistical studies, the applicable, the elements you need to verify for each change, and the design approval from the customer, right? So all these different records you should verify in the engineering change documents element. So now talking about the engineering approval, customer engineering approval. Basically in the customer engineering approval, we call it as design verification plan and report, DVPR. So understand what kind of testings they have captured, right? Just check all the list of all the tests which are mentioned in the DVP and whether they have planned for all these tests, whether they have done the validation for all these tests, right? The functional testing results needs to be available with the supplier so that you need to understand, how they are meeting to your requirement. So this is how related to the customer engineering approval, these points you should verify from your side. Now talking about the process flow diagram, this is very important to, establish all your required processes right from the, material receiving to the customer, dispatch to the customer level up to customer dock level. How, they have identified all the operational level processes in the process flow diagram and how they have captured the incoming sources of variation, product characteristics, process characteristics. So how they have represented with different symbols, right? So how easily it is understood by different operators, right? So basically you need to understand, how they have captured all the sequence of processes in the process flow diagram. And for each process, you need to verify that they have captured the applicable product and process characteristics for each of the stage. So this is very important. So once the process flow diagram is established by considering all the required processes or operational stages, so the same stages or the operations needs to be linked with the process FMEA. So when we talk about the process FMEA, the first thing you need to check is the linkage of all these different operational stages of the process flow diagram with the process FMEA. And the same way in process flow diagram, you would have already captured the product and process characteristics. Again, those characteristics linkage should be there with the process FMEA. One thing is the operational stages. The second one is product and process characteristics. So once this linkage is there, then you can verify in terms of process FMEA whether they have captured all the failure modes, whether they have captured the causes, applicable causes by considering man, machine, material method, measurement method, nature, right? So just consider any of the critical issues and check whether related to those critical failures. So whether they have captured all the applicable causes, right? So that way you can just pick few of the failure modes and verify the different causes and verify the different detection and prevention controls. And wherever you feel the prevention controls are not adequate, then you suggest them to put those kind of controls so that they can go for the robust process. Then now talking about the control plan. In control plan also it is very important to ensure the linkages. PFD to PFMEA, PFMEA to control plan. If there are 20 different operational stages which are mentioned in process flow diagram, the same stages needs to be captured in PFMEA and also control plan. Same way, the product characteristics, those will reflect in PFD. Same product characteristics will come to process FMEA. And in process FMEA, for every characteristic, every requirement, there will be multiple failures. And same, all those requirements will again come to control plan. In the control plan, you need to ensure the linkages of the controls which are there in the PFMEA. So in PFMEA, you'll be capturing the controls, prevention and detection controls. So those controls will reflect in the control plan so that the operator will understand, okay, these are my different process and product requirements. These are the current controls which I have to ensure the sustenance. And if something is not meeting to the requirement, then what should be the reaction plan? What should be my inspection or verification plan? What should be the frequency? Who is responsible? Whether I am responsible for this particular activity or whether someone else is responsible for the particular activity. So that is the reason this control plan normally, it should be displayed as at the shop floor, because the operator will follow that particular control plan to ensure the decided the product and process characteristics are met as per the drawing or the specification requirement. Procedures like whether they have the MSA procedure, considering the variable studies, considering the attribute studies. In variable and attribute also, there are different categorizations. So you should ask them to demonstrate what kind of procedure they have and what kind of studies they conduct. Like talking about the variable studies like bias, linearity, stability, GR studies, and talking about kappa or the attribute, basic attribute studies, which are part of the attribute data. So you need to understand what is the categorization, and if they have the master list of all the instruments, so how like what kind of methodologies or the MSS studies are applicable for different categorization of the instruments. So basically, we call it as MSA applicability matrix. So what is the instrument acceptance criteria, right? So these are the different parameters you should verify as a part of the measurement system analysis. Okay, so now talking about the dimensional results is one of the element where if the component is having, if it is a main like assembly component is there, and which will be having the sub-assembly and child parts, raw material. So this multi-layer or multi-level of category of components, you need to verify the dimensional reports. First for the assembly parts, sub-assembly part, child parts, whether they have the dimensional reports for all these components, the layout inspection covering all the dimensions. So these different inspection reports needs to be verified for the different categorization of the component. Now talking about the material performance and test results, you can verify the list of materials and all the change level parts to be tested. Like there will be multiple changes which are happened in the component. So related to the revisions also, they should test as per the customer requirement, right? And verification of the child parts material test results also you need to verify. The TCs we call test certificates. So based on the material they have selected for the different child parts or the part manufacturing, you need to verify the material test results. Then valid test, third-party test results like NABL accreditation lab, accredited labs, or any other accredited labs, authorized labs. So from where they are getting the results, right? So you should verify that one. In fact, if you talk about IATF requirements, it is mandatory that it should be accredited by NABL, right? So those you should get the results or the calibration done or test done from these kind of laboratories, right? So now talking about the initial process studies. In the initial process study, you should verify what are the different special characteristics. Basically, this initial process study, the statistical studies needs to be carried out for the special characteristics, covering the significant and critical characteristics. So you ask them to show the list of the special characteristics, how many dimensions they have covered, right? And talking about the CPCPK, PPPPK, ask them to show the criteria, how many samples they consider, what is the criteria to identify the special cause, right? So how they perform the PPPPK study, right? So you can verify the these studies. If you are going for the on-site visit to give the PPAP approval, then all the components will be produced. You'll be witnessing the whole process, and based on the selected components, you'll be verifying the overall result. So you can verify that. If you are verifying it offline, then get the details and ask them to share the criteria and all, and you can verify the results. So and analysis action plan whenever they are not meeting to the capability requirements. So that one also you should verify as a part of the initial process study. Now we'll talk about the appearance approval report. This appearance approval report, which is required for each part or the series of components. So basically, if there is a aesthetic requirement or a visual requirement, then this AAR would be applicable. So for this particular sample, customer signature would be required, right? So then they will be referring this as a master, right, to refer the regular production. So basically, this is applicable for any of the visual requirements are there or aesthetic requirements are there, like color, grain, surface, aesthetic, like it can be texture, right? So these appearance requirements will be a part of AAR. And also you can ask them what is the instruction, what is the visual aids, how they verify the regular components with respect to this AAR, right? So these kind of questions should be asked by the auditor. Now talking about the sample product. The sample product should be, approved by the customer. Internally, it will be signed by the cross-functional teams. And you need to have the preservation conditions, preservation methods for this, and the instructions, right? So how you should preserve it, how should you should what kind of the frequency to change these components needs to be changed, that frequency to be decided. So these are the requirements of the sample product. Now talking about the master sample. So this master sample should be signed by the customer. And what is the preservation instruction for this master sample? What is the changing frequency? Because there are few of the components which will get impacted from the environment over a period of time. So you should define the changing frequency. Let's say over like 6 months, there cannot be any impact on the component, right? So after 6 months, there can be a impact on the master component. So master sample. So in that condition, you should have the changing frequency so that after 6 months, again you will pick one of the sample with the detailed inspection report, and you can get the approval from the customer. You can get it signed from the customer, and that component will be again considered as the master sample. So this is how you should procure, you should preserve the master samples. Checking gates. As a part of this checking gate element, you should, as an auditor, you should verify the list of FTG like fixture, tools, gauges, or different instruments. What is the MSA plan? What is the verification plan? Right. So whether all the components revisions are linked with all these instruments, because there are some of the modifications in the component which will have the impact on your inspection methodologies, right? So this linkage also you should verify as a part of the checking gates element. Now talking about the customer specific requirement, this is very important aspect. You as an auditor, you should verify the customer specific requirements, how they are meeting to the CSR. So what records you need to verify, what documents you need to verify. First thing is whether they have any of the process or criteria to capture the customer specific requirements. If they're capturing those requirements, then verify how they are meeting to those requirements. So these requirements can come in terms of process capability studies, FMEAs, putting the controls, testings, the inspection, sampling plans, agreement of inspections, or any other type of agreements, right, with the customer. So all these requirements needs to be captured, needs to be met and sustained by the organization. So these points should be verified by the auditor as a part of the customer specific requirements. Now the final element of PPAP is part submission warrant. This is basically considered as the final stage or the final document. Once it is done, then only the supplier will be able to dispatch the components. So in PSW, you should verify whether it is approved by the customer, signed by the customer, whether all the details are updated in the PSW, customer details, supply details, both the sign off, right? The part weight with 4 decimals in kgs and the other information like a capacity, right? If it is conditionally approved by the customer, then you should verify the action plan. So this is how, as a customer, you should have the checklist, but that checklist should cover the different critical parameters which I have mentioned for the each element. So this way you can have your own checklist by covering these critical points so that you are making your PPAP process more effective, PPAP audit more effective. So now talking about the other elements of PPAP, since PPAP is a big topic, I'm just covering a few portion of this topic, this tool, right? If you have any queries or you wanna have more details about this process, you can connect with me separately so that we can have a detailed discussion. And also, we provide the different solutions on quality control. We provide the different solutions on electronic quality management system, which is EQMS. So one of the best solution we have. So if you have any of the requirements or the challenges in terms of quality management system, definitely you can connect with us. We can have the discovery sessions and understand your challenges, and we can come up with the value addition, how we can add the value to your process. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thanks for watching this video. Stay connected. Thank you.